Morty Saperstein.
Wake up, wake up, wake up. All right, 49ers and Bears. Niners got to have it. Damon in the house, Larry here, Sam's Chowder House, bringing you Wake Up on a Friday. Wake the up right now.
It is Friday, December 6th, my week-long endeavor to shake this cold that has been in my lungs and in my head. I have failed in that regard. It is now time for the 49ers to answer the bell that I could not this week. I've been under the weather. The 49ers have certainly been way under the radar. Can either of us resurface by Sunday? It is great to have you here again. Thanks to Sam's for sponsoring us here on Wake Up. And I am in the usual location on a Friday. We got Levi's Larry from down in Santa Clara. And Larry, there's this, whatever you want to be, the fork in the road of the season is officially now here. If the 49ers win, their playoff chances go from not very good to still not very good. And if they lose, they go from not very good to let's not talk about it anymore. That's basically what this means. It is the tread water, just stay in the conversation until Christmas game, and they got to have it. What'd you say? John Lynch on KNBR this morning saying you cannot get your ass kicked twice and not start, looking at your own reflection in the mirror to figure out who you are. Let's find out what kind of pride the 49ers have with the Chicago Bears coming to town in a game that is hard to handicap. We don't know really what the 49ers are bringing into this game, and we don't know what the Bears are going to look like with all the moving pieces and now an interim head coach guiding their way.
Well, it's funny. John Lynch was on the radio today, and he told a story about his dad. He's like, when I wasn't playing to my standard, as in youth sports, my dad would come to me and say, have some pride, have some pride. And and he said it's kind of stuck with him. And, bottom line is he's like, we got to fight. He said, you can't get your ass kicked twice in a row and not respond. And that's kind of, if I have one question today for Kyle Shanahan at his presser later today, it might be that, just like, it's been a rough year. There's been lots. They're not excuses. It is. They've had a lot of tragedy. There's been a lot of disappointment. There's been a lot of injury. It's not an excuse, and it doesn't tell the whole story. They've also failed and regressed and been the worst situational football team I think I've ever seen. But it hasn't gone their way. But now they're at home, against a winnable team. They were the Super Bowl favorites at the beginning of the year. They're not mathematically out of it, shockingly. It's all there in front of them. Is their locker room going to rise up and fight and claw and finish strong, or are they going to meekly, go away and wither away and just be like, ugh, and get trounced at home by the Bears? I think this is a game that I thought the Bears might win, but I thought that was when the Niners would have been rolling, and this was kind of like a trap game, and I thought the Bears would have started slow and gotten better, and they have kind of started slow and gotten better. The Bears are a better team right now than the 49ers are coming into this game, so I'm so eager to see what the Niners have, and I really do want to ask Shanahan, does he think his team is going to fire and rally and fire a big effort down the stretch, or are they going out like lambs here?
Well, and the truth is, Kyle, by definition, cannot have more chips sitting on his side of a poker table in a coaching matchup. He is literally coaching against a guy who will be the head coach of a football team in the NFL for the very first time on Sunday. Now, Thomas Brown, after talking with Courtney Cronin, has had an impressive rise. We still don't really know an awful lot about him. He's received two battlefield promotions in the war of the 2024 Chicago Bears season. He became offensive coordinator, and then he was named head coach after Eberflus was shown the door. So Thomas Brown, we don't really know what to expect. You can't talk about tendencies when you haven't seen him ever coach a game before. There's an idea that obviously he's going to want to run the ball, get Caleb Williams to use his playmakers and, all the obvious stuff. But what sort of bag of tricks will he pull out? He's been told by Chicago, with decent showing here, he's going to get an interview for the job. But the stories coming out of Chicago in the last 24 hours are basically like the stories you hear coming out of sports bar bathrooms where they let cocaine happen on the back of the toilet. Like in Chicago this morning.
What?
Here's how sports talk radio sounds this morning in Chicago, Larry. Are you ready?
Yes.
Yeah, I heard that Jeff Bezos is going to buy the Bears and he's going to buy a Super Bowl and everything's going to be fine. And we're going to have a new stadium and a new practice facility. And Jeff Bezos is going to trade it all for Shanahan. And then he's just going to spend $3 billion and we're going to win the Super Bowl. Chicago Bear cocaine all morning long in Chicago. Have you seen this rumor? Jeff Bezos is going to now buy the Bears and change everything.
Well, he's got the money. He's got enough money, and who knows? Maybe that's a great thing for the Bears. You never know. I mean, the McCaskies they brought the 85 Bears, which is one of the most entertaining Super Bowl champions of all time, but they've also been a huge disappointment. And the NFL is a better league when the Raiders and the Bears and some of these iconic teams are better, and they're just down, and they've been down, and it's not good for football. But as far as Brown, this guy, what a mercurial rise to the top. The guy goes from the quarterback coach to the offensive coordinator when Waldron gets fired. And then he's now the head coach after Eberflus goes down. But Damon, if you've looked at some of their numbers with Brown the last 3 weeks are really good in the red zone. Chicago is third in red zone touchdown percentage, scoring touchdowns on 66.6% of their red zone trips over the last 3 weeks with Brown as the offensive coordinator. Or I should say they were 83% is what they've been in the last 3 weeks with Brown, I should say. They were 66%. They're 66% for the year, but they're 83% the last 3 weeks. The Niners are 27th in the NFL in red zone touchdown percentage at 48.8%. They've been better over the last 3 weeks as well, but it's only 57%. That could be it right there. The red zone, the 49ers have been awful at situational football. And it's not like, oh, it's a Sorensen thing. They've been bad at situational football on the offensive side of the ball as well. They're just bad at situational football. And it's like, I asked this question yesterday to Nick Sorensen, Damon, and I want you to hear his response, because it's like, instead of answering the question, he like basically said there were all these other areas in addition to the red zone that also stand out. So listen to this. Tell me what you think of this. This is, to me, one of the sound bites of the week. Here's Nick Sorensen yesterday here in Santa Clara. At the presser, and I'm just teeing it up.
Not taking the ball away. Same as third down.
Hold on. Hold on, Nick. Don't jump the gun on me, Nick. All right, here we go.
The red zone is just 9 for 9 the last 2 weeks. 100%. It can't get worse. It's a crisis situation. What is there a solution? Is there an answer?
We're looking at everything. I mean, there's, whatever it needs to be done, we're trying. We got to same thing, same as the run. We got to same as not taking the ball away, same as third down. These like situational parts of our defense have to get better. It doesn't matter who's in there. We got to coach it better. We got to execute better. So look at every aspect of it, evaluate everything, looking at ourselves even more throughout what we've done. Is there things we need to change? Do we just need to tighten up what we're doing? So we're just evaluating. And then it's also your opponent. Does that apply to who you're playing? So it's not good. It's not good enough. We have to get it better.
The red zone is just.
Yeah, so there you go, Damon. What did you think? What do you think of that answer? I mean, he then kind of goes into a bunch of different areas there.
Look, I think there's no reason to even send Nick Sorensen to a podium. The man hasn't said anything of any consequence into a microphone all year long. I've been listening to your questions, even in good times, even when Nick Sorensen's got a layup, he misses the bunny when it comes to just talking at the podium. He's not a podium guy. And it wouldn't matter what kind of guy he was at the podium if he could get off the field on third down. Third down is where this entire season is pretty much evaporated for the 49ers. They can't stay on the field with third down conversions. They can't get off the field with getting a team off on third down. It's been a problem all year long. And he can, give the lip service of, we're looking at everything. Everyone's accountable. Okay, well, we know that. Your problem isn't that you're looking at everything and everyone's accountable. Your problem is that your pass rush has sucked all year. And that running on you on running on you on third and short is no problem at all. There's not a lot of good tackling on the other side of the ball. There's not guys just closing down gaps and shutting down running lanes and jumping into holes. And it's not what it used to be. And I think it's a combination of no Dre Greenlaw, who's a heat-seeking missile of I'm here to shut this shit down. And Fred Warner's had a broken ankle that we only found out about a week ago. And Nick Bosa is, when he's out there, he's a pressure machine, but those pressures haven't become actual sacks. And there's nothing. There's not a lot of oomph behind the 49ers defense anymore. They're a bend, don't break defense. And unfortunately, they've been breaking in the red zone way too often.
Yeah, they're not a bend, but don't break. They're a break and break. I mean, right now,
bend and break. Bend and break. Not bend, don't break. Bend and break.
What they really are, to be completely honest about it, is they are a statistical aberration. How you can't be worse than 9 for 9 allowing touchdowns in the red zone. The last 2 weeks, they are no resistance. They should hold a sign that says no resistance and come out with that, because they were no resistance against Green Bay or Buffalo. 9 for 9. You're hoping that you shut down a team a lot in the red zone and they don't shut down a team ever. It doesn't get any worse. That's why I said it's a crisis, because it's like, you have to do something different. You have to, whatever you're doing, you got to do it different. If you're blitzing, don't blitz. If you don't blitz, maybe you ought to blitz. If you're going with, guys, and you have other options, maybe go with those other options.
Larry, I think I hear your strategy. Opposite day.
Yeah. To try something new. I don't know, but they are bad at situational football, and the Bears are good at situational football, especially recently. So that could get ugly. This game, what worries me about this game is that not that the Niners may lose, is that they may get their doors blown off at home to the Chicago Bears.
Well, I would really hope it's not you got really your doors blown off. The Bears haven't been in the blowing your doors off business all year long, and it would be the wrong time for the 49ers to start playing lay down and die football, because there are fingers being pointed and there are some internal questions being asked. So I do think that, forget about competitive pride, professional pride, just wanting to keep your own position on this team and in this league are all going to come into play. I actually think the 49ers are going to give you a really good effort this weekend. I don't want to guarantee anything, but I'd be surprised if the Bears won this game. This is a game that Shanahan has to put together over a first day on the job head coach. It is against a rookie quarterback. There are avenues of you should be able to take advantage of that to the 49ers, but we've been looking for those avenues all year long, and we've identified them, and they haven't. So yeah, it could be another big letdown day. How do you win this game? That's what we're here to talk about today. How do the 49ers win this game? Do not be conservative with George Kittle. It is time to have George Kittle get 12 targets, force feed him. I don't care if he is, look, you're not throwing into double teams. But anytime it's George, a guy in some space, throw the ball to that space, let George go make a play over that guy. I think they got to just emphasize and overemphasize George Kittle all game long. And Isaac Guerendo, I don't know what you look like when you get a 20th carry in a football game, but there is an opportunity that you will get to show us that. This should be a big workload for a rookie who's got a lot to prove, who has been used sparingly throughout his rookie season, and it kind of falls on him by happenstance. You know, the two guys in front of you are hurt. So third man up, who we didn't see much of, you're now the starting running back of the San Francisco 49ers. Isaac Guerrero, surprise us. Surprise us. Ricky Pearsall, surprise us. Do something that helps this team move the ball, move the chains, stay on the field, score some points, win a game. We haven't seen you since Tampa, Ricky. Do something against a vulnerable Bears defense that is not going to be breathing down Brock Purdy's neck all game long. Brock will have a pocket to operate from, and he needs somebody to help him out. So, I mean, returning to basic shit, run the ball, throw to Kittle, the only guy who knows where the end zone is. That's how the Niners win this game. Making it stupid simple again. And that's how they go about winning this game. There's not a lot of razzle-dazzle. You shouldn't need to throw a lot of razzle-dazzle on the Bears. And I don't know how much razzle you got to dazzle anybody with, to be honest with you. So,
well, you got to stop
the backyard fight football.
You got to stop the run. It starts with stopping the run. They can't stop the run. I mean, that's the bottom line. They can't stop the run. So if you can't stop the run, it's a long day at the office. Their run defense has been awful. So, I mean, it starts right there. If you're going to get a lot of DeAndre Swift. This Bears team is not great, but if you look at their season, I mean, they had Washington beat. They lose on the Hail Mary where you had the Bear defensive players celebrating while the play had already started. They lost to Green Bay on a blocked field goal. They lost in overtime in week 12 to Minnesota. They played very well in that football game. I watched that. They lost to Detroit on Thanksgiving in the game that got Eberflus fired because he couldn't call a timeout and get a field goal to, or anything. I mean, they touchdown, no. Field goal, no. Timeout, no. Game over, yes. Career over, yes. But anyway, they lost that one. They blew that one. So, I mean, that's it right there. I mean, there's 4 losses right there. This is a much better football team. And you know what? I think even though we're all very disappointed in the 49ers, I think the 49ers are definitely better than their record too. But you know what? You are what your record says you are, and we're going to find out who's got more left. Greg Papa was on this morning on the radio, and he made a good point. He says the Bears are playing better ball right now than the Niners, and it really is true. The Bears are playing better. They have a little bit more juice right now than the 49ers do. So we're going to have to see, how do the Niners come out of 2 long trips to the cold, Green Bay and Buffalo? Do they bounce back? And, is it a big bounce back performance, or do they kind of drift away? This is a really interesting Bears team, Damon, from the standpoint of Caleb has been sacked 49 times. A lot of those are on him. I mean, I know his offensive line's not great, but a lot of it's on him. He's just processing slow. Yep. But then he has not turned it over. The Bears only have 9 turnovers on the year. So, it's now or never for the Niners. They've got 2 games in 5 days. We're going to find out in that 5-day window if they're going to make a run or if they're going to fade away. What's your best guess?
I think they fade. I do. I mean, not because they didn't want it, not because they didn't try, but sometimes you are what you are. And just what I've been watching is just not the version of the 49ers that reinvesting faith and hope in and just waiting for them. Like, yeah, one day they're going to turn around. They're going to come out of that bye week. And this season, as it goes forward, won't feel like the season that we're leaving in the rearview mirror. It all seems to be similar. There has not been a true break in style or like tempo of this team. And I don't know if they've got the availability to turn it around. I mean, are you telling me Debo goes into the Fountain of Youth today and gives you a 150-yard, 10-catch performance with 40 yards and a touchdown on the ground too? Well, then, yeah, that sounds like the Niners are back to doing what the Niners do. And when the Niners do what the Niners do, good things can happen. But they're just not that team. I've been waiting. I've been waiting for the, here they are. It's my kids are constantly on Netflix watching. Is it cake? Is it cake? Is it cake? Is it Niners? I'm cutting everything. Is it Niners? Is it Niners? No, it's not Niners. It's just not Niners. And I'm not saying that it can't be and get back to being a better version of this football team with an off season between this year and next year. But this is going to take a massive reset. Look, you're down at Levi's and you were there yesterday. Can you tell me about some availability? Is Lenore back in this game? Is Trent Williams playing in this game?
We don't know about Lenore. Lenore's playing. Trent Williams, we don't know. Bosa and Williams are still unknowns at this point.
All right. Well, then I don't know what to think about the 49ers' chances of winning this game.
Well, Jaylen Moore played very, very well.
It's Nick Bosa that I'm worried about. It's Nick Bosa that I'm worried about. It's not Jaylen. Let me tell you what. You know what Jaylen Moore is? Jaylen Moore is the only dude on this team that I don't think about or worry about at all. Jaylen Moore comes in and gets his job done whenever he's asked to, and he never plays. When's the last bad Jaylen Moore game? I mean, I know he doesn't play very many to assemble good game, bad game resume, but Jaylen Moore is fine at his job. He does a really good job at his job. So I'm not worried about him at all, to the point where I don't want to hear another word about well, the reason why George Kittle's not out on those routes is because he's got to go in there and block. Let Jaylen Moore pretend he's a tight end. Have him block. You can't coach up Mason Pline or Saubert or any other backup tight end on your team how to block. So go get the one guy who's a tackle in his spare time. I bet you he can block. It's just one position over. You're just standing to the left shoulder of the position you normally play. You're the backup tight end today, Jaylen. Go get him, kid. I'm sure he'd do fine at it. Fuck, even throw him a pass. I bet you can't be much worse than Debo or Ayuk was catching a football this year. Get it done. I if you think this guy's going to be a little bit better than the other guy, go with that guy. I don't care if it's out of position.
I mean, they've got a lot of different issues, but I will say this. I don't worry about Jaylen Moore stepping in for Trent Williams. Jaylen Moore last week, 5th highest grade PFF among all tackles in the NFL.
He was real good.
11th highest among all offensive linemen. So he actually is really solid. And when you talk to him in the locker room, it's like he's a veteran, and he's a good prospect. He's got long arms. He's strong. He's got good feet. He knows the system. And Ben Barch played well. Ben Barch only allowed 1 pressure in 24 pass block snaps. So Barch and Moore played well.
Barch was a tight end, was he? Did Barch play tight end in college?
You don't know the Barch story? Oh, the Barch story is a phenomenal story, Damon. Barch went to a Division III school and was really wanted to play in the NFL, but was a Division III player and really had no hopes of making it to the NFL. And then basically he went and developed this concoction and drank it. And I'll tell you what it is. I wrote it down. It's crazy. It's a crazy concoction he had. But it was like Gatorade, peanut butter, cottage cheese, a ton of eggs, and he said he had to just plug his nose when he would eat it. It was so bad. Here it is. So a couple years ago, he was a Division III tight end, backup tight end, 3rd string at St. John's University in Minnesota.
Okay.
And his coaches said, you're never playing in the NFL. So he decides he's going to put some weight on his 6'6", 250-pound frame and start playing offensive line. So he starts eating this concoction. It was 7 scrambled eggs, a big tub of cottage cheese, quick grits, peanut butter, banana, and Gatorade. And then Barch then combined all the ingredients in a blender and choked down the protein shake. He says, I would just throw it all in and then plug my nose, Bart said.
I don't understand why you wouldn't. So all of those things eaten on their own are fine. Why didn't he just eat it all on their own? Why did he try to whip them all together into some protein shake? The whole point is it goes in your body, right? So just eat it.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, but it takes time, probably. It's a lot faster this way. He says, in the dark, I would gag sometimes. That's what you have to do sometimes. Anyway, he put on like 50 pounds and, he's a pretty good athlete at 300 plus pounds, and he played well at guard. And, Chris Forster told us that the Jacksonville offensive line coach really liked him, and they put him on the practice squad, and he kind of told Forster kind of informally, hey, this guy's perfect for your system. If you're in need of an offensive lineman, we got a pretty good one on our practice squad, trying to do right by his player. I don't know if he's doing right by the organization on doing that move, to be honest, but Jaguars lost, Niners gain, and the Niners get Ben Barch last year. And if you really think about it, Damon, this is an interesting month to kind of monitor what the Niners do, acquisition wise. Why? Because this time last year they added, I think, Barch, and this time last year they also added Sam Aquinu. And a lot of times you can add guys late in the year that are just kind of floating around out there if you do your homework and you have a need and you see the vision. So and it can sometimes set you up for, where would the Niners be without Aquinu this year? Aquinu served a huge role in their defensive front. He's played a lot of snaps.
Well, and I know that a couple weeks ago you were getting us excited for Evan Anderson, and unfortunately we really haven't heard his name since
he started.
Yeah, I know, but he's not being felt on a football field.
No, you're wrong. Evan Anderson, Damon, had the second highest grade, PFF grade of any Niner on either side of the football.
Well, that's super duper, and I'm going to tell you that your Pro Football Focus grades impressed me this much. Okay, I had my own two eyes, and I just saw that middle get pushed, opened like two big barn doors, and everything that the Bills wanted to run right up the middle of the gut, they did all day long. So take your Pro Football Focus grade and go throw a party with it. I don't give a shit. And everyone in the middle of this defensive line has nothing to be proud of. Nothing to say.
Pro Football Focus over your eyes. Sorry.
Okay, well, you go right ahead because they're right and they're wrong and I'm right. They got the 49ers could not have played worse as a defensive line in Buffalo.
Yeah, but it wasn't Evan Anderson. Evan Anderson graded out really highly, and if you watch the All-22, you'd see it.
Super. Nothing's happening. Congratulations on his solo excellent performance. It didn't affect the game at all. Now, I'm not expecting him to do very much. He's a rookie thrown into a situation, but
you're blaming the wrong guy. That's what I'm saying.
Do more. Somebody needs to do more. It's got to be somebody. I don't know. I don't care who it is. Leonard Floyd, Evan Anderson. I don't care if it's Kyle Anderson of the Golden State Warriors at this point. Somebody needs to make a play, strip sack the quarterback, make a game-altering play because the collective effort of everyone together has graded out as Pro Football Focus. This shit ain't good no more. It's not.
I don't even know what that even means.
Done being a good football team up front. They haven't really been all year, even when Nick Bosa's out there putting up very impressive Pro Football Focus letter grades. His in-game creating impact letter grade is usually incomplete. Again, pressures are super duper. This team needs to get home. It needs a play to end. It doesn't need a pressure on third down. It needs a sack on third down. So,
okay, so if we said, who are the 49ers' best players on offense this year in order, wouldn't we say pretty much, this would be my order. George Kittle, number 1. Juwan Jennings, number 2. Trent Williams still playing at a super high level, number 3. Dom Pooney has been an incredible find for them. He would be number 4. Brock Purdy has been not great, but his running and his playmaking make him the 5th most valuable offensive player. Then I would probably say Jordan Mason. Then after that, it's kind of a lot of disappointing guys. Those to me, those are the positives. The negatives are guys like Juszczyk and Brendel and Banks and McKivitz and Debo. Those guys have been disappointing. Would you pretty much agree?
Yeah, I mean, I would put Brock Purdy on the top of my offensive disappointment list, and the fact that Brock Purdy,
you'd put him at the most disappointing.
Debo?
Oh, I think you said Brock Purdy.
No, Debo.
I mean, Juszczyk's been bad to me this year. Brendel's the lowest rated center, so I would have those guys lower than Debo. And Banks to me is backslid a little bit, even though I like Banks a lot personally. I wish they would re-sign him, but he's had some rough games on film. McKivitz has had some ups and downs. I would put Debo right around the middle, but probably above those guys because he has made some big plays. My point is just that you just rip PFF, but PFF ranked the Niners offense by grade, and that's the order they had them in. Kittle 1, Jennings 2, Trent 3, Pooney 4, Purdy 5, Mason 6, Debo 7, and then McKivitz 8, Banks 9, Brendel 10, and Juszczyk 11. So, I mean, we can say they don't know jack, but they literally ranked the Niners offensive players exactly pretty much how we would. So I mean that they're not. I think
useless. Football Focus can give you like an overall arching, but just one particular game. Oh, Evan Anderson was the highest graded 49er. Oh, well, great. So he got the only D+ on a night where everyone flunked. Who gives a shit?
I mean, here you're expressing your discontent, but I'm telling you, if you go watch the film, what you're going to find is that Malik Collins got moved. Jordan Elliott got moved.
Everyone, all of them did.
Devondre Campbell. But it wasn't even that. The Niners ran at will in this game. everybody ran at will because there was no lateral agility. This is not the game to like point to and learn anything about anything. I mean, I talked to 4 different guys who were like, you know what? That snow out there, it was like we had to constantly clap our cleats down. Otherwise, you're just sliding around. So that isn't the game. I'm not going to get super people came out of that game going, Jair Brown can't play. Relax. Okay. Yeah. He took a terrible angle. James Cook had a great jump cut. Jair jumped inside. Cook jumped outside. He took it to the house. House call 65 yards. Looked bad. But Jair Brown is not a bum. It's like he's a young safety who needs to get better. He's probably better against the run than the pass, but he's not a bum. But right. I mean, right now, there's a lot of people like, he can't play. He sucks. Everything's instant. It's like, it was a rough surface in Buffalo. Nobody stopped the run. Buffalo didn't stop the Niner run, and the Niners didn't stop Buffalo's run. But Evan Anderson, actually, if you looked at it, you'll go watch, you'll find he made some plays. Everybody saw him slip down, but he actually was the guy making plays. But Collins, Elliott, Campbell, almost all of the middle of the field defenders were getting, waltzed out of the way. It was the most pathetic 2 weeks in a row, the most pathetic tackling I have seen. It's embarrassing. They need to step up. This game's got to be a whole lot different. The Bears are coming at you in this game with DeAndre Swift and receivers that can run routes. DJ Moore is a pro. Keenan Allen is a pro. Cole Kmet is solid. Caleb can run. So, yeah, Caleb's looked bad at times, but if you think this game's going to be a cakewalk on Sunday, think again, Niner fans. This is going to be a massive challenge. And you know what they say? It's like the hardest one to get's the first one. The Niners are doubting themselves right now. If they have a bad first half, they're going to fold up their tent against Chicago. So this first half against Chicago is absolutely essential for the rest of the year. If the Niners fire here, they may win Thursday against the Rams. They may be able to beat Miami, but the hardest win is going to be this one against the Bears.
Well, and if you're, just the bellwether of how are the Bears operating, what is Cole Kmet doing? If Cole Kmet is having a big day against you, you're in for it. Cole Kmet has a good game once every 5 weeks. He really and like that'll be the game in the last 5 weeks that the Bears won. I mean, that's like Cole Kmet is a bellwether. How are the Bears operating today type of player. So look at him. How involved is he? And again, I think the 49ers tight end, if you don't see early and often targets to George Kittle, if George isn't getting loose in the first half, why is Kyle waiting to get him loose in the second? He's got another one of those I can't run my best player open afternoons. He's going to have a better day than that. Shanahan needs to have a better day than Thomas Brown, who will be coaching his first ever game as a head coach. And Shanahan should have that better day. This is a game the Niners should win. But I don't trust them anymore. I don't. I'm not down on Shanahan as a coach of an organization. I'm not down on Brock Purdy as the quarterback you go forward with, but I'm down on believing this season is going to turn into anything like we hoped it might when the season began and optimism was everywhere. They haven't had enough good football put in front of my eyes. Pro Football Focus grades need not apply. These old man eyes on my head have been screaming at me, yeah, it just ain't their year. All year long. So I don't think it's going to turn around now, but hopefully they beat the Bears. And even if they beat the Bears, I still don't think they're going to be a playoff team. But let's see. I certainly am not going to think you're a playoff team if you don't beat the Chicago Bears. And if you don't beat the Chicago Bears, the amount of 49er anxiety that is going to roll through the next week is going to be an amount of 49er anxiety that this franchise has not dealt with in years. So, mind you,
in what way?
Oh, it's the hand wringing, the I don't believe in this team anymore. The total reevaluation. Move on from Brock. Move on from Shanahan. Move on from everyone. What do you need? Do you need to tweak an offseason, or do you need to do a tear down and rebuild? And I don't like the cap situation. And everyone got old overnight. And it'll be nothing but a list of shit that we don't like.
Well, some of it's going to be true. So
and some of it will be true. Yes, some of it will be true.
Sometimes you're just gonna have to live with it. I mean, it's nothing lasts forever. It's like it's a cyclical deal. Guys get old quick.
Hold up, but I want to I guess I want to do a little reverse engineering here.
But I'm like, even the Harbaugh thing, like Harbaugh checked out right there, but like he had surfed a wave and the wave had crashed down. And now they were gonna have to rebuild up that wave. And it's like Shanahan has surfed this wave. And now this wave has crashed down. Now there's bills to pay and guys want to get paid and older players and, and they've been very loyal to their guys, but maybe too loyal, right? Because a lot of those deals in retrospect were not good deals. So now there's going to be some pain. They're going to have to kind of do what the Rams did. You're going to have to cleanse your roster.
Like this was a year where, the anxiety, the concern, the unhappy fan had every right to bubble up to the surface and join the conversation of things I don't like. But there are people who were talking just like they are this year about the 49ers last year. So that should make you deeply focus on who you're getting your information from. Because again, if this year sounds like last year, knowing what you know about last year, isn't that ridiculous? How great last year. Wouldn't you trade everything you've seen for this year?
Why? Who's making this year sound like last year?
Oh, no, I'm just saying during a Super Bowl run, I heard everything was going wrong and everything needed to be torn down and Kyle had to go and Brock's not the guy during a Super Bowl run. So to hear it from the same people now, it's like, well, it's useless. You didn't even know it was good when it was good. So how good can you be at identifying when it's bad? You thought it was bad last year, and last year was the Super Bowl.
Yeah, there's an awful lot of.
You can't be a weatherman if you don't know when the sun is shining.
And there's an awful lot of people
on the Niners all last year, and there are people just saying it's raining, it's raining, it's raining, it's raining, it's raining, it's raining. No, this is the year it's been raining. This is the year where it's been raining. So I hope you enjoyed last year. A lot of people went through that miserable too. People don't even know what they're looking at because they're studying Pro Football Focus grades. I don't know.
Pro Football Focus knows more about it than you. I would say, and they watch it closer than you. They watch it a whole lot closer than you. I mean, to rip Pro Football Focus, I mean, come on. That's
They said you would check this week. Who gives a shit what I think about Pro Football Focus? Don't let it bother you, Larry. I'm telling you, it is
because I'm
Pro
citing the
Focus
source, and you're
interesting.
trying to say that it's not a good source.
Interesting,
and you don't have any source. You know, I mean, come on.
My source is
seriously.
me, Damon Bruce. I've been covering the Niners for 20 years. This is a credible fucking source, Larry.
Covering it how? From where? I've been here. I'm here. I don't see you. Where are you?
Yeah,
you're not here.
I'm not there today.
You're not here. Wait a second. You're not here ever, dude. Don't tell me you're not here today. When was the last time you were here?
Training camp. I do not come down.
That was July.
That
was July. It's December.
I don't ask questions that are just. I'm not going to even get an answer.
You don't cover it. You're covering it from your basement. You're not covering it. Covering something means you're here. You're an observer, but you're not covering it. I mean, come on, you clearly know the difference. Come on, let's be adults about this.
My 20
you're
years,
not covering it.
My 20 years of covering the 49ers is spoken for, Larry.
I'm just saying.
What are you trying to? Are you trying to strip me of my credibility? Do you think you'd be doing a better show with Ryan Hensley today? Would you like to go do that?
I'm just saying. I quoted a source. You're crapping on the source, like Pro Football Focus.
I'm just saying that Evan Anderson is not having this awesome, emergence and rookie year that we're hoping.
Wrong.
Him and Sam Aquinu are not changing the arc of the year. And they're rookies.
One defensive tackle. One defensive tackle is not going to change the year. And now you're taking drive-bys on other guys. Let's just not talk about other people. Let's just do a show. How about we don't have to talk about Ryan Hensley or anybody else or Grant or anybody else. How about we just do a show? Just talk about the show. But don't tell me that Pro Football Focus knows nothing when I just cited that source, and you're not here. You haven't been here since July, and you're telling me you're covering it and you know it better than these guys that watch the all 22 and roll it back and forth and put out grades and their grades have decimals to it.
Some of
they're
it
putting it. Come on,
some of it is.
You got to give them theirs. I mean, come on.
Statistics are like lampposts for drunk people. Sometimes you're just leaning on them. Sometimes they provide illumination. And sometimes Pro Football Focus grades help tell the story. Sometimes I think they prove that what you saw with your own two eyes doesn't exactly measure up with their grading system. I'm not here to rip Pro Football Focus.
You already did.
You look at it this way. It seems like you
just already did. I just think that's interesting. The only people, I mean, somebody could argue I'm biased, right? Because I'm a Niner fan. Somebody could argue you're biased. You're a Bears fan, whatever. Nobody really thinks that Pro Football Focus is biased. I'm just quoting their stats, and their stats are interesting. I'm not saying that everyone is foolproof, but to just crap on it and be like, that doesn't mean shit is just wrong and talk. I mean, that's talking out your ass, right? I mean, there's nothing about that. There's no credibility in it's a bunch of shit. I mean, come on, let's be a little bit better than that. That you don't even believe that. You're just in the bad mood today.
I'm in a bad mood all week. I'm sick. And
okay, well, just admit. I'm just saying, dude. Come on, don't crap on Pro Football Focus. They didn't deserve that.
All right.
And Jeff Deeney, and there's a lot of good people there, dude. I mean, you know that. Jan Snow says Kyle needs to learn how to play jazz out there. He's trying to set up combos, but is missing some buttons on the controller. Sometimes you have to button mash. Man.
See, football is not jazz. Jazz football looks like Jameis Winston football. Jameis is playing jazz. And sometimes, you get, Blue Note by Miles Davis. And other times it's a pick six going the other way. So jazz and football really don't mix the way that jazz and basketball mix. It's got to be very coordinated.
Kyle has not had a great year. My big complaint is like in this last game, George Kittle is one of your best players, and the rest of your weapons have kind of fallen by the wayside. You don't have CMC anymore. You don't have Debo anymore. You don't have Mason now anymore. I mean, Kittle should have seen the ball a lot more. Now, I don't think you were beating Buffalo in Buffalo. I don't think you were beating Green Bay in Green Bay. But, man, Kittle has got to be – I mean, just looking at the weapons, I mean, Kittle – has got to be the guy they go to first and foremost. He's almost got to find another blocker, get him in the pattern, throw him the ball. I mean, he's way underutilized. He's having a great year, and they need him. So, I mean, I think he said he ran 6 or 7 routes. I mean, 6 or 7 routes. Come on, they have to use George Moore.
Well, that's as close to George Kittle getting pissed off publicly as he gets, right? I mean, that is George saying something's wrong.
He's not going to complain. I mean, he's not a complaint. He's a team guy to the end.
But that is absolutely him. That is absolutely him saying something here is wrong. I need the ball. I'm not going to come out and say, Kyle, get me the fucking ball. But when he's like, yeah, I don't know why I'm not involved. Like, that is George Kittle complaining publicly. So listen to that, Kyle. He's right.
Seriously. And I don't know who else to get the ball to, but I would say if, either Ricky Pearsall needs to start producing, or all of a sudden that pick's going to look really, really bad, because he has been playing and yet he has not been actually producing. And some people say that he can't do it. Other people say, well, no, it just hasn't happened. Well, that's fine. But every game that goes by and he doesn't produce, it's like it hasn't happened thing is weaker and weaker. And it just is it's a flimsy excuse for a game or two. Okay. He's been through a lot, but he's got to start contributing in a real way.
What I don't want to see this week is for Kyle to just fall back into the bad habit of Debo's my backup running back. I don't want to see. Pardon me.
He loves Debo.
I don't want to see Debo get 5 backfield touches before we see whatever's supposed to happen behind Garendo, because we know that those 5 Debo touches or end arounds or whatever he's going to get probably aren't going to produce 20 yards of rushing. Really haven't all year. So, I would like to see Garendo really get a lion's share of carries. Let's see what this kid's got. You drafted him. You kind of have to play him now, so do it. Who's the guy they just signed off the street from the Jets?
Izzy Abanaconda.
Okay.
Maybe they'll play him. Maybe they'll play Taylor. They like Taylor too. I'll say this for Garendo. He's got the weirdest career of all time. I mean, he was a high school wide receiver. He goes and plays college ball and starts once in his entire career, despite the fact that he's this incredible specimen who's super fast. And then in the bowl game, his one start, he had like 164 yards and 3 touchdowns. Okay, so then he comes to the Niners. You can see he's super raw. He runs up the back of his lineman. He doesn't read blocks or holes or anything. But he's also averaging over 6 yards a carry. He's had some explosive runs. And yet McCaffrey came back. They just totally went away from him. And I've been calling for him to get the ball. He seems like the kind of guy who's going to have this line. You're going to hand it to him 13 times. He's going to get 4 tackles for loss. He's going to fumble once. He's going to and lose it. He's going to fumble another one, but get it back. And he's going to have 3 carries that go for like 115 yards. You know what I mean? Where he had bust like 2 50-yard runs, and he has a fumble and like 4 tackles for loss. I mean, it's like, that's the kind of game he's going to have. He's not like 3 yards, 4 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards. He's like tackle for loss, 62-yard run. So if they can live with that, then they can live with that. I hope they put him out there enough time for him to break one, because that's what he is. He's a game breaker. We got Against 23 says, you guys are hilarious. You guys get me my fruit, my Wednesday and Friday. Keep up the great work, coming out of Visalia, California.
Thank you, Visalia. Appreciate it.
There we go. Central Valley. Alex Davis says, boys, calm down. The war is out there. Okay. Thank you, Alex Davis. Joseph Ernberg says, PFF gives good grades for players on shitty teams. That's true. Heck Dell says, should have taken Zach Ertz last year to pair with Kittle. I thought they had interest in him, but he, maybe he didn't want to play at home. I got to think the Niners, he's been a free agent a couple times and he's never found his way home. So usually there's some backstory there. Maybe he didn't want to be at home. The other question that came up this week that I thought was kind of an interesting one was what do you do to try to protect the quarterback? Aziz Al-Shaair had the huge hit on Trevor Lawrence. And a lot of people it was kind of odd the way, first of all, there was so much negativity immediately after, and the way that the thing erupted into an on-field brawl with the Jaguars and Texans, you knew there was going to be a big suspension. And sure enough, it was very severe. It was a 3-game suspension. Instead of just owning it, Aziz pushed back, D'Amico pushed back. Kyle, when asked about Aziz, said Aziz is a great guy, a great player. John Lynch today said he's a great player, a great guy, and that, he's a super physical player. He plays super physical, and that in John's mind, that the severity of the contact did lead to this, the big penalty, and the severity, I should say, the severity of the suspension was due to the reaction on field and off field in the next 24 to 48 hours. But John's thinking is that we're at a point now that we need to now start kind of pushing back on flopping in the NFL. And he thinks that because some quarterbacks run and then pretend they're going to slide and then keep running. And then John mentioned, hey, we just played Josh Allen. He's bigger than some of our defensive linemen, and he gets like these protections and can be super aggressive. And then we can't hit him high, low, or anything. John seems to think that they need to alter that rule about the slide. And Kyle said that the slide is not natural for quarterbacks. And some guys are just not good at it. What is your thought on that? What
rule? When something goes wrong in football, I hate when the reaction is, let's change rules. No, you got to change your coaching. You got to teach your quarterback to get into his giving himself up slide to strides before he's doing it. You've got to give yourself up earlier. If you're giving yourself up, you can't be trying to get every yard that you can get and be giving yourself up at the same time. It's, anti-synthetic. It can't happen. So you got to start your slide earlier. I will also say this, if I've been in bed all week long trying to get over this freaking cold that I've got, doom scrolling, just watching too many videos on my phone. One of the more interesting videos that came up right after the Trevor Lawrence injury and the Al-Shaair suspension was a compilation of hits on Cam Newton throughout Cam Newton's career. Cam Newton took that Trevor Lawrence hit every other week that he was a player. And not only did he never get really concussed once, just shows you what a kind of a badass Cam Newton was. The player that hit him so many times, so much worse than Aziz Al-Shaair hit Trevor Lawrence, was never suspended, was never disciplined, never started the on-field brawl that happened. So this Trevor Lawrence situation feels like it's being officiated much differently than just about every Cam Newton situation that was similar, if not worse. And I do think that this is one gigantic overreaction, and guys get hurt in football, and defensive players are going to hit guys, and they can't pull up from their tackles and just stop everything, especially when guys are in midair. And I think that the 3-game suspension for Al-Shaair is overreactive and ridiculous. If you wanted to give him 1 game to prove your point, fine. But I didn't think that it was an extra malicious hit. It just was bad timing, and it all went into the sauce in the wrong way, and bad things happened. Had Trevor Lawrence, Larry, just bounced right up, dusted himself out, and given the old first down, there would be no suspension. Had Trevor Lawrence not been hurt, there would have been 0 suspension.
Yeah, the fact is his arms kind of hung in the air there. His fingers
he had the what do they call it? The fencing posture when you get knocked out. And I think it's called the fencing posture, where you just kind of freeze up, and you see that on guys when they lose consciousness. And Lawrence had that. Yeah, it's scary.
The thing about this, though, this isn't about I mean, the hit was the hit, whatever. I mean, I know Aziz is not dirty, but it was, and I understand it was very violent, and because Lawrence was so obviously knocked out, um, and the reaction, the brawl, you knew it was going to be a big suspension, and it was. But that to me is not, that's secondary. To me, it's more like, I don't know about this rule anymore where the quarterback slide, because I mean, think about it. You're now then asking the quarterback to kind of give himself up in a way that puts him in real harm's way. You puts his face and his neck and his shoulders. He's sliding and momentum going. And if you're going to let guys, bring it to him, to the head and shoulder there, the combination of the force and the slide and the hit is just going to create these ugly hits. And it's, I don't know, it just, it puts, it's like if the defender plays the game by the rule, then it's fine. But for it's like the quarterbacks are getting destroyed. Like, I don't know how many hits a quarterback can really take like that, period, in his life. Like, remember the Trent Green hit by Robert Geathers? It was kind of the same thing. He slid down, and Geathers, who's like a 290-pound defensive lineman, went in there with the shoulder, and just Trent Green just bounced off the surface, and it was like he got hit by a bus. Yeah, I don't think he ever played again. I don't think he really played competitively after that. So
it's not really the player-to-player hit that does the damage. It's when the player that is getting hit and their helmet bounces off the back of the AstroTurf. That's where Tua's lost consciousness 2 or 3 times. It's not the hit, it's his head bouncing off the ground. And that's what got Lawrence. And I guess Cam Newton was enough of a badass to where that didn't really happen to him. It's pretty impressive. That Cam Newton didn't get hurt more often than he did. The way that he got, there could have been a flag on every single hit of almost Cam Newton's career. I mean, that's how different the game was officiated just in the handful of seasons ago that he was playing than it is right now. Here's the deal. There's no such thing as I get to get out of this play without getting hurt. Not on a football field. So either give yourself up and do so 3 yards, and that's, you're giving yourself up. You're not trying to get that first down. And protect yourself at all times. It's like any fighter going into the ring. Even when you hear that ding, it doesn't mean just walk back to your corner, because this other guy could still hit you. So protect yourself at all times. But there are enough protections for quarterbacks already baked into this rule book. I don't think I need more.
One of the other big topics that came up this morning was Kyle Shanahan, and Murph, as only Murph can do, joked. He's like, well, and that's if you don't trade Kyle, to the Bears because of the Florio. I think was it Florio that started the rumor, or was it somebody else? But Florio was one of the big name guys who put it out there this week, and it was too salacious to not at least, talk about it or gravitate towards it. Almost everybody I heard at some point threw in their 2 cents on Shanahan, the idea of trading a head coach and this and that. But Lynch, of course, said he thinks the Kyle talk is comical. He said, we have an excellent head coach. Our focus is solely on the Bears. And obviously, what more do you expect him to say? But I also don't, it's like Dan Coachemilio, who I love. He's a great guy. But he brought it up on our post game after either the last game or the game before. And I crapped all over it, I mean, because I just said, Dan, they're not going to trade Kyle Shanahan. And then, then out of nowhere, Florio, not hearing Dan Coachemilio, but Florio went with that same thing, and all these people were like, you owe Dan an apology. And I'm like, no, I didn't get mad at Dan, but I was like, Dan, it's preposterous. They're not going to do it. It's like so low percentage. And then I let myself even ask a question to a Bears person this week who I had a few of them on, about like, how would the Bears feel about trading for Kyle Shanahan? And it's just because it's such a, it's a down year. All these injuries are making it so there's hardly anything to talk about. The team's so depressing at this point that something as juicy as maybe trading a head coach is almost too hard to resist. So for those who are like, oh, you're tabloid, I apologize, because you know what? That is a little tabloid for me. And that's not the way I like to cover it. But I'm glad that Lynch came out and said something, because there was an awful lot of speculation. The drum beat was getting louder and louder and louder. And hopefully that puts to bed all the crazy talk of trading Kyle, or even parting ways with Kyle. There's a large contingent of people, and I see it, you see it, they're in the comments. The one thing about YouTube is you get tons of comments. There's a lot of comments about fire Kyle in every stream that we do. And we could go back in this one and there'd be a bunch of people. It's Kyle. Come on, it's Kyle. And I don't think Kyle's having a very good year. He's not getting the ball to Kittle. They're not good at situational football. I don't think he hired the right defensive coordinator. I don't think he hired the right special teams coordinator. I don't think he's doled out the touches to his weapons the way I would have. I don't think he's having a particularly great year, but I wouldn't get rid of him. I think he's like probably one of the best assets the organization has. I think he's probably a top 5 or 6 NFL head coach. So I'm glad Lynch put that down, because now maybe we'll stop hearing Niner fans with such regularity saying dump Kyle. They were in the Super Bowl last year. We're all disappointed. But in reality, if you back away from this season, what do you see? Kansas City's great. Why? Great interior offensive line. Detroit's great. Why? Best offensive line in football. Buffalo's great. Why? Josh Allen's the least sacked quarterback in football. Philadelphia's resurgent. Why? Their offensive line is dominating teams in the fourth quarter. Almost all of the best teams in football, it's the offensive line, and the Niner line doesn't match up. They got to build it up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
There are a lot of bad teams who sometimes stumble into a good year. What I think we have here is the opposite. I think we got a good team that stumbled into a bad year, and trying to use this year to reach the X marks the spot of Kyle Shanahan. Like, everything that happens this year is what really matters. This is the truth of Kyle Shanahan. And the Super Bowls and the NFC title games, those were the lies. That was the luck. That was the dumb, stupid, just Cosmos made it all happen for you. No, I don't think so. I think when things are operational, built good, and functioning, and the team isn't over-injured, Kyle's got as much of a shot to put a really good product on the field that's going to have more positive outcomes than negative outcomes. So I wouldn't be moving on from him. We've been saying this for multiple years now. There are people who literally all they want to do is relitigate Kyle after every play, much less every game.
And Purdy.
And Purdy, and it's got to stop. And they're good teams can have off years. And that's what I think this is for the 49ers. And there are enough off things about this year to where some internal reevaluation absolutely needs to be done. This is not a run it back situation. Last year, they might have lied to themselves a little bit, just saying, yeah, just run it back. It's a run it back situation. Like you lost Aziz Al-Shaair in this game for all next year. So there is no running it back even available, or excuse me, Drake Greenlaw. You without him, you ain't the same. So you better conduct business accordingly. The Niners didn't. They did not conduct business accordingly. They didn't replace a player. They just thought, we'll get him back and we can kind of spackle it until he gets back. No, that has not happened. And because of that, one injury over here now feels like twice the injury over there, because the other guy who was so good at what he did, he hasn't been here all year now. And these little things compound and go on. And it's funny. You listen to football teams and coaches, and they'll talk about the importance of snaps and reps and practice, and how all valuable it is. All of it, every little bit of it is, right up until it's a training camp holdout or hold in, and then they just try to blow it off. Like, then it doesn't matter. Like, then it does. No, that matters too. So I think the number one lesson the 49ers take away from this year and start applying towards next year is stop doing business at the speed of molasses for players you do want to re-sign and will bring back. Get them in, get them practiced, get them done. And I hope that that is the first step in a new normal for the 49ers as they try to return to normal next year, because this year has been abnormal all year long. And we thought maybe in the bye week it'll start feeling normal, or there will be enough pressure and loss for the team to just say, all right, that's enough. We're going to break our chains and show everybody who we are again. That has not happened. So I don't think it's going to happen. I think the 49ers need to just get out of this football season. And
when you said get it done, you're talking about Brock, right? So here's the deal on that. If you said to me, what do you pay Brock? Okay, it's like, what do I want to pay Brock? Or what is Brock, is what's Brock due on the open market? On the open market, some would argue that he's due the highest, and that would be $60 million or more. I think that's a little too high. What is absolutely absolutely he's going to ask for is what Jalen Hurts got, which is $51 million a year, or what Tua Tagovailoa got from Miami, which is $53 million a year. I think he's going to be right there. And I think that's probably, if you said to me, where do you think he belongs? I don't think he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. I don't think he's a superstar, but I think he's a very good quarterback who's between like 6 and 12. But a 6 and 12, I guess the way the NFL works, tell me if I'm wrong, but I guess you have to pay these guys an absurd amount of money. Does a quarterback who sits between 6 and 12, is he worth Tua money? Well, Tua's in there. Yeah. I mean, Jalen Hurts, I think, is a good comp for Brock. And so I think you're going to have to pay him $50 million. Now, according to the reports, the Niners are prepared to pay that money. And they're going to have to say goodbye, Damon, to a lot of people. Aaron Banks, Mooney Ward, Jake Brendel, Javon Hargrave, Deebo Samuel, maybe Dre Greenlaw. And by the way, it's so funny because all these people are like, well, if the Niners lose Sunday, they should just not bring Greenlaw back. But see, there's a disconnect between, like, yeah, if Dre Greenlaw was like a Warrior or a San Francisco Giant and he had like a 5-year deal, yeah, you would be like, or if he were, if this were a different sport. But everybody the teams that are evaluating him want to see him out there at the end of this year because he's a free agent this offseason. So even though I'd love to see them pack him away and get him signed and, let him play next year, let him rest more, he wants to get out there so he can show people what he's got so he can get some teams bidding for him.
Yeah, no, he's coming back. Football doesn't come with load management. Yeah, there's no load management. There's no shutting the guy down. See you next year.
But they're going to have to say goodbye to a lot of these guys at the end of the year, no matter what.
So I've been thinking about
he might be one of them.
So for Brock, the $60 million a year payday, that was if you won that Lombardi trophy last year. Had you beat the Kansas City Chiefs, yeah, that's where we are. But we're not there. Now, there comes a point here, Brock, where the amount of money we're paying you is going to start working against your chances to compete, because we're not going to be able to put the team around you that you've enjoyed so far in this year. And I don't think they're going to I don't think this is going to be that hard of a talk to have with Brock Purdy, who's a smart, reasonable, humble guy who I think, really does look at his team like, hey, if we can all succeed, that's really good than just one of two of us getting, So I think that there's a little bit of a Boy Scout in Brock, but there's also a businessman in Brock too. And here's the business that I think would make everybody happy. I mean, maybe the years aren't right, but how about $48 million a year over? Let's make it a 40. Let me do the math real quick. 48 times 4. So it's a 4-year extension, 48 million a year. It's 192 million. And the hook is what is making you lean forward here, Brock, because I know that the number isn't an annual average value, but here's the deal. 100% guaranteed. The whole thing. We'll give you 4 years, 48 million, 192 million guaranteed, Brock, because we know that you're not going to be caught in massage parlors. We know you're not going to be beating your wife. We know you're not going to get a DUI. We know you're not even going to cut a line in the mall so you can get a soda faster. Like, you're such a Boy Scout. We're not worried about you. So would nearly $200 million guaranteed dollars make you happy? You want to come play for the Niners and try to go win a Super Bowl? I bet you would.
I like that. I like that idea. I like that idea because it does guarantee the player the money in a sport that's brutal. And I don't think the risk is the off-field stuff, and you're right. I don't think he's an off-field risk. And if you could save a few bucks that way, that might be a good anything that will save them overall, because they're trying to put together still the best team they possibly can around him. I mean, if I was him, I would look for the most money I could possibly get, but also have an offensive line, also have weapons, also have help.
You're really young, Brock. Here's the deal, Brock. Here's the deal, buddy. This next extension is not the last you will ever sign. So you're going to want to look really good in this extension too. You're going to want to look really good over the next 4 years. And if over the next 4 years you then win a Super Bowl, well then, the sky becomes the limit. And you know that. And oh, by the way, 192 million guaranteed dollars is enough money to just make anybody in America sit up and go, yeah, okay, I'll do that.
Mahomes got 10 years.
You won the Super Bowl, Brock, 192 million. You tore both your knees, both your Achilles. You never played again. You got 192 million. How do you say no to that? Hey, by the way, you know where I came up with that, Larry? From my basement. I didn't even need to be in Santa Clara to come up with that. How about that?
But you will have to be in Santa Clara to watch practice today. Here we go. We got this one from Ricardo Rodriguez.
I ain't here to cut practice.
Yeah, clearly. Great show. A lot of things happen at practice. Great show as always, fellas. Who's RB2 after Guerendo? Do you see Abanaconda contributing in these final games? Kid looks promising.
No.
It's Patrick Taylor, and I mean, here's the thing about this. Guerendo has never had any starts. He's never been the bell cow. So I mean, he's big and strong. So there's no doubt looking at Guerendo, you say, yeah, you could hand it to that guy 30 times. But he does run upright. He hasn't ever been used to that workload. He doesn't really have that kind of pace or anything. So I would say Guerendo's probably a 15 carry guy. And I think if you're going to beat a team like the Bears or win any of these games down the stretch, you're going to have to run the ball 25, 30 times a game. And that means that you've got 15 carries for somebody else. And maybe 10 of them go to Patrick Taylor and 5 of them go to Izzy Abanaconda. I will say this about Abanaconda. He ran 4.26, somewhere between 4.26 and 4.33, and at 217 pounds. He did score 20 touchdowns for the Pitt Panthers in the ACC. It's not like this guy, was Podunk State, San Jacinto Junior College, or, this guy did this in the ACC, 20 touchdowns, led all of FBS. So it's not like he's a nobody. He just went to a Jets team that had Breece Hall, that, he got caught up in kind of a numbers game, Braylon Allen. I mean, they're pretty good at running back. So I think the Niners scouts were right. Shanahan told us yesterday that the Niners scouts really liked him and thought he was the best guy available and wanted him. So we'll see. I asked him how long. I went in there yesterday, asked him how long does it take before you could, contribute in an offense. And he's like, well, the plays kind of translate from team to team. So as long as quickly as he can gather a few handful of plays, I think at the first couple of weeks, it'll probably just be a select package of plays. But he feels like within a week of practice, he could get out there and do his thing. So we'll see. He looked good in Hard Knocks on HBO, and as I said, he was pretty great at Pitt. We got this one, great show. Okay, yeah, we got that one. We've got this one as well.
By the way, I don't think Abanaconda touches the ball. You won't even see him. I doubt he is involved at all. Kyle hates new guys. He fucking hates them. He hates the new guys he drafts. He hates the new guys.
Somebody's going to have to. They only have so many guys.
It's going to be Garendo and Debo. They'll be the guys who carry the ball, and then you'll get 12 scrambles out of Purdy.
I get the feeling they really like Patrick Taylor. We'll see. Nathan McFadden says, "Who are your breakout players in a 49er win?"
They just waived him a couple of weeks ago, right? They re-signed him to his practice squad. He cleared waivers. I don't think they're interested in Patrick Taylor at all.
No, they like him a lot.
Well, they didn't use him in a season where they were dying to figure out something else. They haven't used him, so
John Lynch just talked him up. Kyle talks him up every time they get a chance. I mean,
right? Do you know that's why I guess I don't go down, because talking up guys and then never playing them, it just doesn't compute with me. I'm not really interested in what anyone says. I'm interested in what they do. I'll be surprised if Abanaconda is more involved in this game than Patrick Taylor was involved in any game in this year. Notice he carried the ball once for the Niners. He had a carry in Tampa. I think that's it. So we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he touches the ball 20 times. I don't know, but I doubt it.
You're having a rough week, dude.
I'm not having a rough week. The Niners are having a rough week. Well, I am having a rough week, but I don't think I'm wrong.
You're having a rough week.
Okay,
let's throw this one out. So so what? You're better off not. I mean, let's just not even go there.
No, I just don't think that Abanaconda is going to get the ball very much this week.
And maybe you're right. Tobin Ernst says Mahomes turning the NFL into the NBA in many ways. And this one, we didn't answer this one, but Nathan McFadden, who are your breakout players in a 49er win, offense and defense?
George Kittle. It's got to be George Kittle. 3 touchdown day for George Kittle. Who else?
I'll say probably the Niner running backs. And as I said, I think it's going to be a collection. I think it's going to be a little bit of Garendo, a little bit of Debo, a little bit of Taylor, maybe a little bit of Abanaconda. I think the Niners collectively, their running backs. The other guys I'm looking for in this thing is, the 49er offensive line last week, looked like they had a good week, but did they? And when I say that, I mean, like, everybody ran successfully last week. And when you watch the All-22, what you saw was that the Bills stayed in this 2-shell defense, and they just kept their 2 safeties down the field deep and just said, you're not going to throw the ball over our head. And they were so deep at times pre-snap that it just begged the Niners to run, and the Niners ran really effectively. But when you look at the numbers, that's kind of what Buffalo does this year. They're giving up 4.9 a carry, but they don't give up explosives, and they make you drive the ball, and they just figure, you'll make a mistake, you'll have a penalty, they'll get a turnover, and it worked. The Niners ran it effectively. They had hardly any explosive pass plays down the field, and Buffalo won the game. And they won decisively. Why? Because the Niners didn't handle it well. They fumbled 3 times. Buffalo handled Buffalo better than the Niners. But as far as breakout on defense, I'm gonna say Demo Lenore. This is another game. Run the ball, stop the run. The Bears are going to try to bring DeAndre Swift. The Bears are an old school team that would love to run the hell out of Swift at the Niners and take the load off of the rookie. So I think you're going to see tons of Swift. And I think it's going to be up on Lenore, who plays in the box as a nickel defender, to make a number of tackles. So I'll say Demo Lenore is the breakout guy on defense. I know we talked to him yesterday, and he said that he is super, super eager to be back on the field. He missed this last game, and it just killed him. So he's refreshed and looking for blood. So I think he's freshly paid and will have a big performance.
Hope so. I mean, 49ers are going to have to win a turnover battle. They're going to have George Kittle, their best player, involved. They're going to have to get something out of their backfield. So, yeah, Yamdor Lenore, do something. Do something. Malik Mustafa, is still, I think that guy leads the 49ers in flashing this year. So hopefully he can flash a few more times in this game too. They need him.
All right. That's probably going to do it for us tonight or today. I've got practice coming up here in a little bit. Well, we get this one also from Joey Nichols. Jair Brown needs to show up and play a hell of a lot better than he has been, or they need to sit him and put someone else in. You know, one of the reasons I think that we're seeing Talanoa Hufanga out there on the practice field, and he was out there yesterday with a cast on a big club on his wrist, and he's going to have to play with the club, is because what this guy is, expressing here is that Jair is I don't want to say he's backslid, but I think he's a better run defender than he is a pass defender, and he takes some bad angles sometimes, and he's just had some bad plays. He's a young player who's played a lot. I don't know that he's earned all that run, but they're pretty thin and they've needed him. And I think they're just really eager to get. I think if it was up to them, they would start Mustafa and Hufanga, and Jair would be that third safety. But we'll see. We'll see what they do, because you're right. He has been disappointing. Not just the 65-yard house call to James Cook. That was just, he jumped inside, Cook jumped outside, and he was gone. That's it. But just, there's been a number of times where he's taken weird angles, or the coverage hasn't been there. He's not closing the space. He doesn't look really natural as a coverage defender. So I don't know if that means he has to play on a different team because he's got to play in the box or what, because it just doesn't seem like him and Mustafa are a good fit. I don't know that Hufanga is either. So we're going to have to see.
Is there any way to just convince them, like, so what we want you to get, man, is the Ben Barch disgusting milkshake. And we want you to put on 50 pounds and come back as a linebacker next year.
That sounds crazy, but you know what? The NFL is getting smaller and smaller and smaller at linebacker. The linebackers they used to be all 250 and neck rolls and 260. Now an NFL linebacker, 220, 225, 230.
Well, you got to run, man. If you cannot cover, if you cannot defend the pass as a linebacker, you can't be on the field anymore. I mean, that's just where it is.
Yeah. No, it's a coverage game. Let's get some love here for Sam's Chowder House.
Have you shown the video yet?
No, here we go.
Shown the video yet today. Let's hit him with the video. Show him how beautiful it is down in Half Moon Bay. Look at that right there. When there's no clouds in the sky, it's just freaking perfect out there. Get yourself to Sam's. There she is. If we're not giving that lobster roll to Kittle on Monday, Larry, I don't know if the 49ers have won this game. Cipino, paella, get it all down at Sam's Chowder House. Seafood, the ultimate kiss between the land and the sea, right down there in Half Moon Bay. We thank Sam's, as always, for sponsoring Wake Up. They are the best. I could have used a little Manhattan clam chowder for me. I don't need any cream while I'm all phlegmy. A little Manhattan clam chowder would have done pretty good for me this week.
There's no better smelling restaurant than Sam's Chowder House. And if you can get there on like a spring, fall, or summer day, now obviously we're in winter right now, it's still great. It's still a great spot because they got the heat lamps and you can sit out on the patio, even in the winter. But man, when you get that warm air off the water, and you got the fire coming in, they're pot, you can see the oysters and the mussels and the cipino and the fire and the smell of the fire, the seafood, they're cracking beers, the beach is right there. You're literally, I mean, I don't know if you guys can tell, but you're literally like 35 yards from the water. I mean, it's an awesome spot. The smell of the surf and the seafood and the fire and the drink. I mean, it's awesome. I mean, if you go into that place and you're just sitting there and you're like, ooh, it's very, very good. Very good. Clarsard says no soup, no oysters for Sorensen. All right. Yeah. Well, not until they stop the run. Then Sorensen can have some oysters at that point.
You get for every time you get off the field on third down, you get an oyster. Will he get a half dozen oysters on Monday?
How about this? How about a whole order of oysters Rockefeller for every time in the red zone that the Bears don't score a touchdown? Because that, 9 for 9 the last two. Any stop at all, any field goal at all, any resistance at all would be an upgrade from what we've seen the last 2 weeks.
Again, unless they had to get the snow off of his jersey. I don't even think did they pressure Josh Allen once last year? How about this? Lobster tails for sacks. Anyone who gets a sack gets a lobster tail. Not even a lobster roll. We'll get a lobster roll, lobster tail, the whole lobster. You maybe get the lobster boat. Would you like the lobster boat? Get to the quarterback. Get to Caleb Williams. He's still a rookie. Make him nervous. Make him uncomfortable. Go get him.
Sack that guy. He's been sacked 49 times on the year. This is a guy who can be sacked. All right. Well, I'm an old football guy. So when I see a guy's been sacked 49 times, I think, you know what? That's a guy that can be sacked.
I'm a little bit of a numerologist. You're the San Francisco 49ers. He's taking 49 sacks. Maybe we get Andrea, the astrologer, on the line. She'll tell you that it's all in the cosmos. There's the house of Bosa is rising in Mercury, and that's going to go ahead and help you put the pressure on. You just get it done. You 49ers, 49 sacks. I'm a numerology guy. Go get it done.
Go Niners, go Niners. Come on, get a win. I'll drive you guys around town in my Miata. We'll celebrate. It'll be a fantastic night. We'll go down Union Street, Chestnut Street. We get a Moran. It'll be fun.